Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Anderson. I am excited to talk to you this morning about my research topic for my doctoral thesis, which is going to be on David Wooster. Now, I would imagine that most of you have never heard of David Wooster, do not know who David Wooster is or where he fits in the historical record, and you are not alone. David Wooster made significant contributions through Connecticut throughout the entire 18th century. He was born in 1710, graduated from Yale College in 1738, became a lawyer. Throughout his life, David Wooster was actively involved in every aspect of colonial Connecticut life. He served in the military early on with the War of Jenkins' Ear, at the Siege of Louisburg in 1745, where he received great distinction and actually notoriety from the King of England himself. He served in the French and Indian War at the Siege of Fort Ticonderoga in 1757, and he also served in the American Revolution. David Wooster was a lawyer, was a merchant, owning a very successful mercantile business in Connecticut. He was a justice of the peace, in which he served in that capacity several times at the wish of the Connecticut Assembly. David Wooster was also the captain of the 53rd Regiment of Foot. Now, this was a royal regiment. And as far as the historiography is concerned, David Wooster is the only colonial, the only continental to ever be given a regiment, an officer's position in a royal regiment. As a side note, Washington wanted that desperately, but David Wooster is the only one to have actually received that for his heroics at the Siege of Louisburg. In 1775, the outbreak of the American Revolution, Wooster was the ranking Major General of Connecticut Militia, the oldest and the highest ranking. And he was the oldest Brigadier General when the Continental Army formed its officers' corps in June of 1775. So my major research question becomes this: what would make a 65-year-old loyalist, lawyer, merchant, justice of the peace, captain of the 53rd Regiment of Foot, and by the way, that position held half pay for life? What would make this man yield his royal commission in 1775 and endanger his entire livelihood to take up the Republican cause of independence and liberty? There's no biography of Wooster anyway. Most of his papers were destroyed in 1781 when Connecticut was raided by then British General Benedict Arnold. So there's a great need to analyze the material available, as well as to contextualize Wooster in the 18th century story of Connecticut politics, military action, and economic activity. Now, this requires a four-pronged approach to the historiography here. First, the overall historiography of the American Revolution and the Revolutionary War. That's the largest assortment of papers, personal papers, letters of correspondence in that time frame. But there's also a need to examine the historiography of loyalism. Up to 1775, David Wooster was loyal, a devout loyalist. That's an examination. The third group is going to be examining colonial economics, specifically in New England and most especially in the colony of Connecticut. How does all of that fit in? How does the economics and the politics fit in with this growing fourth field, which is 18th century republicanism? And all of these interweave to make this image of David Wooster. He's involved in all of it, and all of those facets involve him. I'm eager to examine all of these and to write the first comprehensive biography of David Wooster. This is a task that's been overlooked, due in large part to the massive work required collecting the primary sources, finding the letters that he wrote, that the recipients kept, and included their response in their collection, looking at papers of governors of Connecticut who wrote of Wooster, those that lived with him, his colleagues in the military, those that were his colleagues in politics, and also those that didn't agree with him. And there are a few of those who I've located. There are papers that don't like Wooster. This is going to be a great thing to take a look at. So either the digital documents that have been made available, which more and more are, the individual letters that are being sent from the Connecticut Historical Society, for example. These are all being added as little pieces of this puzzle that continue to shape this overall image of David Wooster. And I'm hoping to provide a complete analysis of this one man who influenced and shaped Connecticut and the colonies in such a profound way. Thanks for listening.